Finally tonight, some words from and about our man MacNeil, who leaves the NewsHour after tonight. The first words will be spoken by me over videotape.
Robert Breckinridge Ware MacNeil. That's what they named him then. Robin MacNeil is what we call him now. His parents in Canada gave him much more than a name. They gave him an appreciation for words and ideas, and that helped him grow up to be our Robin MacNeil, the man who gave us the story of English.
Our story is not about the correct way to speak English, but about all the different varieties and how they came to be.
He's the man of television who realized that television was more than an electric box that made sounds and transmitted moving pictures, that it was also an instrument for transmitting the words and ideas of serious people, of people with things to say that deserve to be heard. The man of television who for 40 years has practiced what he realized, who has always walked ahead of his class in journalism, as a reporter for Reuters, a correspondent and anchorman for NBC.
Robert MacNeil, NBC News, Liverpool, England.
For the BBC, and for the last 20 years for PBS, public television.
In a few moments, we're going to bring you the entire proceedings in the first day of the Senate Watergate hearings.
It was his idea in 1975 to do a nightly program that looked seriously at one story a night for 30 minutes.
Good evening.
Those in charge at WNET New York supported him in his idea, and eventually so did the entire public broadcasting family. In 1983, he joined with others in offering another idea. The half-hour program had been a supplement to nightly newscasts on the commercial networks.
And I think what's nice about the editors...
He said, how about doing a program that was an alternative to them, something to be watched instead of them rather than in addition to them. Not everybody in public television thought that was a terrific idea, but enough did to give him and his colleagues a fair and good, clean shot.
When we return on Monday night, it will be in our new format.
The end result is the MacNeil-Lehrer Newshour.
After the news summary, our entire focus tonight is the Soviet nuclear disaster. We lead tonight with a look at teenagers and the AIDS epidemic. Still to come on the NewsHour, what's ahead in Bosnia and rethinking affirmative action.
It's a program that's many things to many people. Serious, too serious to some. OJ-less, too OJ-less to some. Even-handed, too even-handed to some.
We get 4 outside views now. We get 3 assessments now. Now 4 views of welfare reform, 2 from the states, 2 from Congress.
But whatever, most of the critics and the fans of the program agree on one thing. It's a civilized place, and that is no accident. It's civilized because its creator is a civilized man who believes civilized discourse is the way to real revelation and understanding.
How are your orders communicated to the millions of your followers? Would you, Fidel Castro, who values the independence and integrity of a small country, what is it about the kind of flower in the Amazon forests that attracts you, the artist? You say you have feelings. You're doing this interview to show you have feelings. How do you feel? Can you explain in simple terms to perhaps bewildered Americans why there is so much equivocation? Are you saying that in order to get a maximum audience, some talk show hosts are actively and consciously promoting, you said, paranoia and anger and hatred? How, without growing cynical, can citizens protect themselves against stubborn ignorance or misplaced zeal of their leaders?
He's not perfect, though. He has problems, huge problems, for instance, with names, particularly those of guests on the program.
Senator Owens, what's your... Senator Hopper, I'm sorry, what is your... Mr. I beg your pardon, I called you Reef. Are you in favor of... Ed Grubbs in L.A., do you hear me?
It's Ken Grubbs.
Ken Grubbs, I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Ken. I beg your pardon.
There will be no more of that after October 20th. But that's about it as far as what we will have no more of.
Frank, no brakes. Okay, ready wash, ready be. Stand by. Dissolve. Go.
Television is often called the most transient and fluid of mediums, here for a minute or even an hour and then gone and forgotten. But Robert MacNeil will never be gone or forgotten. He will be there when his immediate colleagues of today carry on the NewsHour, and when anyone practices serious journalism of any kind on any television. He's leaving permanent tracks along the way he traveled and worked and created. They are tracks of courage to do what he knew to be right, then to actually do it right, and to do it with grace and class and with good humor. Yes, Canadians really do have a sense of humor.
Thank you, sir. That is very generous.
Well, you're welcome. We're going to miss everything about you except the whistling, MacNeil.
The only thing that leaves out, Mr. Lehrer, in your modesty, is that you've always been more than 50% of the creative energy behind the NewsHour and the program that went before it.
Well,
but I have to say one other thing, and you know this. It is not creeping senility which causes me to forget names on the air. I've been forgetting names for more than 40 years. The very first television interview I ever did, which was live in Canada, I forgot the names of both the people I was interviewing and had to say so to them.
yeah.
Why don't you tell us something about what we've all been calling the New World Order that starts on Monday?
Well, it's the fact of the matter is going to take hundreds of people to replace you, sir. No, the big emphasis is going to be on the repertory company. It isn't going to be on me. It's going to be on all the folks, and the people who watch this program regularly know who they are, the correspondents who are going to be functioning in kind of sub-anchor roles. The kinds of things that you and I now do most of is now going to be done by a group of folks, everybody, these correspondents who are now familiar to us, and they're going to be familiar to the audience. They're going to be all over the country as well as here in Washington and elsewhere. And then, of course, are the existing team, Shields and Gigot, of course, the new Gergen Dialogue, our regional commentators, the essayists, the historians, and other specialist reporters. And my plan is to, as I say, have a multitude of voices and perspectives on this program. As I say, it's going to take hundreds to replace you.
Yeah, I think the neat thing about that is you lose one almost 65-year-old white male and you gain a lot more attractive, younger, varied people from all over the country and all that. So that's...
Well, we'll see about that.
Look, I honestly feel, I've been telling people everywhere when they ask about it, I think every institution benefits from change, even forced change, and I really believe that with a program consolidating in Washington under your very inspired leadership, it's going to be re-energized, it's going to be revitalized, and it will benefit from the change, and I think the viewers will see that.
Well, I hope they do. The only positive thing is that in order to replace, we can't replace you, but compensate for your not being here, is that it's going to tax all of our imaginations and all of our energies to do that, and I'm sure on Monday that will be exciting, and I will concentrate on that. We're ready. We're all ready for it, and I feel good about it. As I say, I'll probably feel better about it once I'm doing it. Right now, that's a little hard to think about.
There's another idea I'd like to kick around a little bit. I've been saying this kind of stuff outside the program when people come and ask how I feel about leaving and all that, and if you'll forgive a little partisanship, I know you will.
I will.
I think there is a growing need for this kind of program. We were very confident, remember, in the half-hour form that it was something different and needed then, and we were scared but confident when we went to the hour. But I think the environment in which this program operates, looking at the whole spectrum of television today, there is more and more need for it. There is a relentless drive in our medium to make everything more entertaining.
Yeah. Well, it's been borne out in our audience. I mean, our audience continues to grow, and the people who are watching us for the first time in 20 years actually sit and talk to each other. They must be stunned. But anyhow, they have seen how this thing has progressed, and I agree. In many ways, you could make the case, and I would make the case, and I know you would make the case that we're needed more now than ever before, as there's so many outlets now for news and for everything else. One place that you can go every hour, every day for an hour, and find out what's been going on and what's important. I mean, that's our function, that's our mission, and that's not going to change with your leaving.
You know, I'm constantly asked, and I know you are in interviews, and there have been a lot of them just now, I'm constantly asked, well, but isn't your program a little boring to some people? And I find that amazing because, well, sure, it probably is, but there are people who don't watch. The people who watch it all the time don't find it boring, or they wouldn't watch. And it's this strange idea that's come out of this medium because it's become so much a captive of its tool, as its use as a sales tool, that it's driven increasingly, I think, by a tyranny of the popular. I mean, after all, you and I have said this to each other lots of times, might as well share it with the audience. What is the role of an editor? The role of an editor is to make judgments somewhere between what he thinks is important, or what they think is important, and what they think is interesting and entertaining.
Sure, and we have found, Robin, that if you pay taxes, if there's a story about the possibility of their going up or down, that ain't boring. If you're on Medicare and there's an opportunity, there's a possibility that you may get more or less of it, that ain't boring. If you are a young person or related to a young person who might or might not have to go to a foreign shore with a weapon in his or her hand, War and Peace ain't boring. And we know that, and the folks who watch this program know that. Look, tell us about. I know, but tell the audience what you're up to now. What are you going to do after tonight?
Well, I'm going to have the great luxury, I think it is, for the first time in virtually 40 years that I've been mostly in daily journalism, being able to wake up in the morning and not have to fill my head up with the sort of stuff you're just describing. And, and I can do it in the same way the average citizen does when he chooses. And so when Mr. Gingrich does something, or something happens in Bosnia, or the president does something, I can read about it in the afternoon or the next day if I want to. And I can spend my time writing books, which I really want to do. I'm not like you, as you know very well. I can't write a chapter of a book in 1 hour and then work on the program in another.
I don't write them in 1 hour. It's an hour. It usually takes 90 minutes or 2 hours.
Right. I just have to tear myself away from one thing and then do something else. And so that's going to be a great luxury. And then, as well, we have this partnership, MacNeil Lehrer Productions and Liberty Media, who are now two-thirds owner of MacNeil Lehrer Productions. And while you oversee the NewsHour side of that, I'm going to oversee whatever programs or series we're able to do outside the NewsHour.
Like the story, comparable to the story of English.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope so, if we can land that. And so that's what I'm going to do. But there's one thing I didn't quite finish on the other point. You must be amazed, as I am amazed all the time, the number of people who were amazed about why did you do O.J. Simpson so little? Why? What's your answer when you're asked that question?
Well, it's a matter of news judgment. We believed, you and I and our whole team believed that when O.J. Simpson, when the murders occurred, that was news. The White Bronco thing, that was news. When O.J. was arrested, that was news. When he was indicted, that was news. When the trial started, that was news. The Mark Furman tapes were news. The verdict was news. Everything else in between those 8.5 months has been fascinating, it's been interesting, but it's been real, but it's been a soap opera and it has not been news. That's our judgment. That doesn't mean that everybody else who disagreed with us is wrong, but that was our basic judgment, particularly when you compare it to all these other things that I was just talking about in terms of what's important. That just didn't fall into our judgment as something that was as important on any given day.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
Hey, Robin.
I guess that's it.
Yeah. Hey, good night, Robin.
Good night, Jim. Finally, I'd just like to say to the audience how grateful I am to public television nationally and to all the 300 local stations who carry us for the opportunity you've given me to work in a manner I could be proud of when I went home every night. But that applies equally to our viewers. Without you, no program. There are now some 5 million of you a night, and you express a loyalty to this program of a quality I've never experienced anywhere else. Thank you for understanding what we do. You'll find all the same values there on Monday night and in the years ahead. Thanks, and good night.
Major funding for the MacNeil Lehrer NewsHour has been provided by the Archer Daniels Midland Company, ADM, supermarket to the world. And by New York Life. Yet another example of the wise investment philosophy New York Life has been following for the last 150 years, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by the annual financial support from viewers like you.
Video cassettes of the MacNeil Lehrer Newshour are available from PBS Video. Call 1-800-328-PBS-1.
This is PBS.